With the new year comes new interprovincial trade rules. The Prime Minister promised to remove barriers to interprovincial trade during last year's federal election. The new rules went into effect on New Year's Day, and here to tell us more about what it means for you is Marvin Ryder, a business professor at the DeGroote School of Business at McMaster University. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Okay, let's first talk about some potential economic benefits to these changes that we're seeing.
Well, let's start first, if you don't mind, with the rules that came in place in January 1. Mark Carney got elected, and because he's an economist in the background, he was quite concerned about these barriers between the provinces and also between the provinces and the federal government. So a piece of legislation was passed, which came into effect on January 1st, which basically said that the federal government is going to recognize all the provincial standards. There aren't going to be two sets of standards. Now, that's great news for people if they're trying to be professionals and move from one province to another. Oh, do my credentials meet the federal rules? Do my credentials meet the provincial rules? Good news, if you meet the province, you now meet the federal criteria. But that's not the big trade barrier. The bigger trade barriers are erected between the provinces themselves, not between the province and the federal government, but between one province and another. There are supposed to be a diminishing of those barriers midway through this year, in June of this year. And I say it a bit skeptically because we have talked about reducing these barriers for the better part of 40 years. And each time when we get close to doing it, there's always some pushback, clawback. Well, we'll be free trade here, but we won't be free trade there. The biggest of these, of course, is alcohol. It's easy for me to say, let's have free trade, but in Ontario, people want us to have a preference for Ontario wines, say over BC wines. We'll see what happens. But if that comes to pass, if we can truly drop the interprovincial trade barriers and have free trade between the provinces, it's going to be a big year. So the first one that just took place, good news if you're a professional, but doesn't touch the average consumer. The second one, which would be in June, could have big implications as you're out shopping.
Are there any practical changes that Canadians could expect to see from this one we just saw on January 1st?
Well, I have to tie this into, of course, what's going on south of the border. Mr. Trump was elected and then inaugurated just about a year ago. It was on January 20th of last year. And instantly started his I Love Tariff campaign and putting tariffs on Canadian goods. As a result, Canadian shoppers became much more interested in Canadian products. And that's when we saw this disparity about the interprovincial trade barriers. So presumably, if the provinces continue to work towards dropping those interprovincial trade barriers, you'll see two things if you're a consumer. You'll see more assortment of Canadian products in the stores, and you should see better prices on those Canadian products in stores. So that's what the average consumer is going to notice. Nothing that they have to do, but they should notice some changes as 2026 rolls out.
Can you tell us about changes as well for small businesses and how this legislation will impact them?
Yeah, well, the big thing is that small businesses feel unempowered, if you will, or disenfranchised through all of this. A big company, and I shouldn't drop names, but if you're a multinational brewery kind of a thing, well, you can play in all the provinces and, oh, this beer is made in Ontario, this beer is made in British Columbia, and there's no problem for you. But if you're a craft brewer, if you're a small winery that based just in one region, these barriers can have huge impact because suddenly it's harder to get listed in another place. You're also going to maybe pay some shipping costs that you wouldn't otherwise pay and have some other barriers that way. So getting rid of these things should allow smaller businesses, at a time, by the way, that they're feeling hard-pressed by some of those American tariffs, what have you, it should allow them this flexibility to get their product listed across the country.
Thanks, Marvin, for joining us today.
My pleasure.